evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 102, I believe, of Park Lane Podcast. Today, you got me as your host, Dave, and I'm joined by Wes at the moment. We are expecting Callum and Winnie at some point, but when they get here, we don't know. But the theme of today's show, obviously, is the controversial tenure of our infamous chairman, Daniel Levy. But first, more importantly, Wes, how are you doing, mate?
Yeah, all good, thank you. Although I'm struggling to stay awake the last couple of hours watching England, I have to say.
Mate, the international break is the worst time. It's so boring. I used to love international football. Nowadays, I can't stand it. It bores me
Yeah,
to tears.
yeah, no, like I say, I've been struggling to stay awake last couple of hours trying to watch England. So yeah, but no, looking forward to getting into this one for sure. It's obviously a topic I know that divides obviously a lot of people within the fan base. So yeah, looking forward to it for sure.
Yeah, I think it kind of splits the fan base, doesn't it? Completely down the middle. And as everybody knows, and if you don't already know, I am ENIC out, Levy out. I don't believe they're the right ownership. I believe Wes, you're somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I'm getting splinters in my backside. I'm on the fence because I understand and recognise like some of the good work that Levy, ENIC have done with a football club and everything else. But yeah, there are obviously other decisions that I particularly don't agree with and can't and struggle to get my head around to the point where it becomes really frustrating. And then
Yeah.
it's almost like you can't defend them because of like the decisions that they've made. And don't get me wrong, you're not going to agree with every decision that every person is going to make, whether that be a manager, owner, chairman, whatever. But sometimes you just think, Jesus Christ, man, like
Yeah.
that. It's yeah. So I'm a little bit on the fence with
I
it.
mean, I'm ENIC Levy out. You're on the fence. Cal, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm all good, mate. Sorry I'm late, boys. Just one of them ones Sunday night. I
No,
thought
that's
I'd let
fine.
you guys have your chat first.
So obviously we've heard.
um,
Where do you kind of sit with ENIC Levy? You ENIC in, Levy out. What's your kind of your?
you know me, mate. I'm more moderate with my thoughts. I'm definitely more in terms of I support the club because we haven't got anyone else. I'm not a hardline activist like you are. I don't go around burning stuff up to get the club out and all of that. But to be honest, I'm more towards Levy in because I do appreciate that we've had some absolutely dog shit owners before this as well. I mean, I think Levy's tenure's probably been better than Sugar's. At least
We
there
are
has
we
been
are going
money
to get
invested in
we
the
are
club.
going to get into the detail of that, Cal. I am going to give you a chance to speak properly on that. I just want to jump in the chat because we've got a few people joining us. Jay, as always, thank you for tuning in. Where's his mum, I believe, joining us every week. So thank you.
Always.
Jay said, "Evening, Dave and Wes and Winnie and Callum when they arrive." I'm not sure where Winnie is yet, but I'm sure we'll find out. And of course, Johnny D. Where is Luke? Luke's having a day off, mate. International break. He thinks he's a famous footballer, so he's taking the weekend off as well. So yeah, the aim of this show is, look, I don't want to get into a heated argument. I want to do this cordially. I want to do this properly. I want all the people in the chat to have their say as well. We've got somebody here as well. Toxic Headshot. How the hell can you believe he in? And I'm with you on that note, mate. But we will come to that. So I'm not going to start because I'm ENIC out. But what I'd like to do is just go around both of you and just discuss. Oh, good old Brian. Now, Brian's my man. Brian, you are 100% right here, Brian, mate. I'm with you all the way. And if you hang on, you'll come to me, and then we'll get there. But I'm going to come to you, Wes. Just give me an overall analysis of what you believe ENIC and Levy's time in charge of Tottenham, what it defines. What do you think they've done for a football club?
I think they have taken what was arguably, I mean, it's one of the Premier League founder members. Let's put it out there. Like let's get that straight. So they've taken us from a club that were at one point finishing lower mid-table in the Premier League and having a half decent cup run, and that was a great season, to effectively whether we perceive it as not what the product on the pitch might say differently, but we are perceived as one of Europe's elite clubs now. And think like obviously I was born mid 90s, so I kind of caught the back end of the 90s, early 2000s, and that time as a Tottenham fan was rotten, especially when you go to school and all your mates are Arsenal and United in particular, who were battling it out to win everything. And you go like, oh, who do you support? And they say, oh, and you go, oh, I'm a Spurs fan. They're like, really, really? Like I say, finishing 14th, 15th, lower mid-table, having a half decent cup run. You think, right, yeah, let's go again next year, lads. At least we didn't go down. Do you know what I mean? And now we are pushing consistently more often than not for European football, which is where the club perceive and believe that they need to be. I think they've obviously deviated at times from different strategies, but I would believe on the whole, they've built a culture at the football club which is to try and buy young talent. There was obviously a spell, especially with Martin Jol in charge, where it was we had a British core of young English players, and obviously we got them in cheap, and tried to build a young team, and it was kind of like, right, let's see what we can do with this team. I think that's where a lot of the time we fall short, because it's let's see what we can do as opposed to we have a proper plan here to succeed with this group of players that we have. And I think, we always get so close. We're always the bridesmaid, but never the bride, unfortunately, for Spurs. But I think that's kind of the story almost of being a Spurs fan. We get so close, yet we just then fall off. And I think that's where the whole Spursy tag comes, because we do get into some really good moments. And obviously nobody can forget the Champions League final in 2019. Like, we get that close really to doing something incredible that everybody will remember, but yet it just goes to shit really.
That's kind of my question for you, Wes. Obviously you're a fencer, you're kind of on the fence.
Yeah.
Like, what tips you either way, do you think? What makes you finally turn around and join my side, which is Levy out, Enoch out? Or what is it that kind of
You mean the dark side?
Luke, Winnie.
You mean the dark side? You are literally like the Emperor, aren't you, Dave?
I am. I am the dark side. Or what is it that would tip you to the dark side, to Levy out, Enoch out, or to my side? I'm a firm believer, just like my mate Brian, Toxic Headshot, all in the chat, all agreeing. Yeah. First and foremost, Darren, how you doing, mate? Yeah, it's good to speak. Good to see you joining us again. Johnny B has said, how many times can Arsenal batter a rival team in a row? Yeah, Johnny, we know you're a gooner, but you still tune into us every week, mate, don't you? So, secret Spurs fan there.
Absolutely.
Or what is it that kind of, Wes, but back to you, what is it that will tip you towards Callum, Luke and Winnie's thought process, which is Levy in for some mad reason?
Yeah, I think for a long period of time, I was probably Levy and Enoch in, because saw what they were doing, gradually building the club up to what we have now in terms of our infrastructure, world-class training ground, world-class stadium that everybody wants to go and play at. So it's almost like Wembley in that sense. Like, every footballer wants to play at Wembley. It feels like now every player wants to play at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. But in terms of me going the other way, I was probably on that road, if you like, fairly recently, because of decisions that were being made. Like, we had the Pochettino era, then we had the Mourinho era, but Mourinho didn't have a full season, so you couldn't really judge him. And then it's like, okay, what direction are we going in there? Then we had Nuno, which was a social experiment, see how much Spurs fans could put up with. Then we have Conte coming in, and again, he doesn't get a full season in charge. So again, you question, where's the club going to go? And I think, obviously, especially sort of around that COVID time, I was at the Aston Villa game, and that was probably the most toxic atmosphere that I've come across as a Spurs fan. And you're kind of like, well, where's the club going? Like, we've been told that this stadium is a game changer. We are now able to buy the best in class. We have not bought one best in class player since that stadium opened. So it's a bit like, where are we going now? Like, we have all the tools to succeed as a football club. And I know success is different for every football club. Like, you're probably arguing Ipswich's success this year is just staying in the Premier League. For us now, is success tangible in terms of trophies, or is it us getting into the Champions League again? You know, because it's been a little while since we've been in that. But yeah, it just feels like we've hit the top. We hit the top of the cliff in 2019, and then we just fucking dropped off. And it's like we're still chasing our tail from 2019, and there's
We're
been a
still
lot of
parachuting to the
decisions.
bottom, mate. That's what we're doing.
For me, it just feels like there's a lot of decisions that have gone against what we've been sold almost as a fan point of view. Like I say, the stadium in particular is supposed to be best in class now. We're getting those best in class players. We haven't signed one.
Can I just Cal? I'm going to come to you in a minute, but I do want to as an interesting comment from your mum actually was, so what will be the alternative? Now, nobody knows, and this is the beauty of it. So I am Levy out, Enoch out. I'm going to give a couple of quick points before I pass over to Cal before he comes back to me to have a bit of a rant. But for me, Levy out, Enoch out, the reason I am so in that camp is simple. We're a football club. We're not a business. You know, the reality of it is, yes, he's done great things for the business side, but if that's what you want to do and he's good at that, stick to that. You know, a few sayings which I've heard from Daniel Levy over the past: new stadium will be a game changer in terms of our football ambition. I'm yet to see that, yet to see any ambition from him at all since we moved into the new stadium. It's not about the money. Well, if it's not about the money, start spending it. We invest everything that we make back into the playing squad. But we don't, because Harry Kane was sold for 100 million. You know, the reality of it is it's a lot of waffle that comes out of his mouth. But I am going to come to that. I am going to let Callum, who is Levy in, who is Enoch in, tell us why I'm on the wrong team and why I'm on the wrong side. So Cal, educate me, mate. Why am I on the wrong team?
I wouldn't say you're on the wrong team, mate. I'm very much a moderate Enoch in, because the way that the club has operated, it has gone forward in terms of becoming, like Wes said, a decent powerhouse within Europe. We are one of the richest clubs. We do have very good infrastructure there. We do have a lot of positives to come out of it. And I mean, based on the previous ownership under Sugar, I mean, he bought the club for a minuscule fee and he sold it for a minuscule fee because he did fuck all to get going forward. To be honest, we did nothing positive under his tenure. He brought in God knows how many ex-Arsenal managers and different people like that, thinking it was going to work out well. It was crap. It didn't do nothing. And by the way of it being now, we are in a situation where we have evolved as a club. Yeah, I appreciate what you say. We are not a business, but ultimately, in the age of football we are in now, football is a business. And I think it's naive to think that there's only one approach to it. You have to have multiple revenue streams as well from a business sense, because clubs can't just sustain themselves on football anymore. It's just, if you want to be in that top echelons of club, you need to be expressing yourselves in all these ultimate different options. I mean, don't get me wrong, I won't go and watch Beyonce at the stadium. I won't go and watch Lady Gaga at the stadium because that's not my preference to go and do it. But the sense is that, yeah, I appreciate what you say, where all the money should go back into the team. Ultimately, the Kane money did go back into the team. It's just the club didn't give him any more money apart from the Kane money. That's the thing. So all they've done is they've balanced their balance book, which I appreciate is not the best way of putting it. But we have had some enjoyable times under Enoch. We have ultimately, yeah, we did win the 2008 League Cup. It wasn't a great achievement, but we did win a trophy for the first time since the 80s under it. So it had been a long time coming for that, and there had been a long trophy wait. We have seen some amazing players come through our club. Yes, we are a stepping stone, but we have had the time to enjoy ourselves as well. We've had some great managers: Redknapp, Pochettino, Martin Yole, like Wes said, started something very special as well. We have had absolute dogshit managers as well. Ultimately, half of them ex-Chelsea. So we need to just consider where we stand as a club and the perception that we have. And I won't be Levy in constantly. I'm not Enoch in constantly. I appreciate what they have done for the club, and I feel that we are a bigger club than we was 20, 24, 25 years ago when they took over. The reason why I'm more towards the club is that what better is out there. I don't want us to go and become a conglomerate like FSG at Liverpool. I don't want to be owned by Americans. I don't want to go and become an oil state run club like what Newcastle is. Well, yeah, but you just sniff petrol anyway most of the time, so it don't really make any difference, mate. But the thing is, I don't want us to become one of the Khalifi family. I don't want us to be devoid of all aspects of being an English self-run club. We are part of English history in terms of football and pedigree. All we hear about City is that they are at the beck and call of the Saudi oil groups. We hear, and Abu Dhabi having all of their stuff as well. We are not that type of club. I mean, even Arsenal have Emirates posted over them, but within reason, yeah, they are a decent run club, even if it is under a bunch of Americans in the Cronky who own a ranch that crosses 6 states. But we can honestly say we are still an English-run club by someone who is from a low. Well, Daniel Levy is a Tottenham boy through and through, and all that. He was born in the area, but I don't fully embrace that. I just don't want us to be a state-run club. To be honest, mate, I don't want us to be PSG. I don't want us to be run by like Barcelona Real.
I do get that, Cal. You know, and you know that's a valid point. You know, along the way when it comes to oil clubs and oil money and everything else. But the reality of it is, look, I am Levy out. Everyone knows, but he's done a great job on the business side. There's a great comment here from Darren. He says, if a team ends up in dire straits, we can always go go-karting, which is great. We can go go-kart under the stadium. We've got a skywalk. We've got a great stadium. For me, all I want
is that you. Is that you saying you'll pay for the Park Lane Pod Christmas Day out at go-karting?
Toxic headshot, because I agree with him completely. I want oil money. It's the way forward. Look at boxing, Champions League, is edging forward into a Super League, and this is where I come in, because Daniel Levy to me is a businessman. He's not a football chairman. He comes out and says he's a Tottenham fan. It's a lot of bullshit. He's not a Tottenham fan, because me as a Tottenham fan, if I'm a Tottenham fan and I look at the time when Pochettino was in charge and he came out after the Champions League final and said, we need a painful rebuild. It's going to be tough. It's going to cost money, but we need that rebuild. At that point in time, instead of Daniel Levy going, yeah, you know what? Look at how close you've taken us to the pinnacle. Second in the Premier League, Champions League final, pushing on for those trophies, really getting there and challenging the likes of City and Liverpool and everybody else. Yeah. We get to the cusp of glory, and instead of doing what a Tottenham fan would do, which is go, you know what, well, you are close. Here's everything you need to get you to that next level, to push you on to glory, to push you on to the trophies that this team, this club deserves, buy you the players you want to buy. Instead of doing that, I'm going to look for the cheaper option. Instead of spending 70 million on him, I can get him from the lower echelons of the French league for 12 million. Might not be as good, but I'm sure you can work with it. That's kind of my theory on Daniel Levy, right? All I really want is if there's talk of Saudi money and there's talk of everything else, and Brian, obviously I love Brian. Brian is spot on. You just mentioned part of English football history. That's when we were winning things. Our history is all we've got. Is there is no future on the pitch under Levy, and you're spot on. So in my opinion, we will never win a trophy ever under this current ownership. I genuinely believe.
Well, we already have.
No.
We already have, though.
We won the League Cup in 2008, mate. You know what I mean? I was in my early 20s then, or whatever it was. I was a young man. I feel old now. I'm going grey.
Yeah, we can tell. We can tell by the look at you, mate. Come on.
and Toxic headshot again. Football's evolution now. Poch was successful, but not because of Daniel Levy. He's spot on. But Daniel Levy to me, and I said this on H's show. He is like a man in a blindfold trying to hit a piñata with a baseball bat. He doesn't know where he's going to hit it. He's hoping that he hits it in the middle and knocks all the sweeties out. But the reality of it is that he's hitting the tree over and over and over and over again. And the only people that are really suffering are fans, us. Because my family, my brothers are Chelsea fans. My dad's a Chelsea fan. My mates are Arsenal fans, United fans. You see? So for me as a Tottenham fan, it's embarrassing because I have to deal with the shame consistently, yeah? In the fact that Darren joined the Levy issue. Big up, H. Thanks for tuning in, mate. As far the way I look at it is under Daniel Levy's leadership, ownership, as you want to call it, and Enix's ownership, we've had 18 managers, including interims, in 23 years. 18 managers in 23 years. We won 1 League Cup. We are the first club to go. How many transfer windows without signing a player? 2?
3.
3 transfer windows without signing 1 player under Poch, when he was crying out for us to be taken to the next level. We've had successful managers like Conte and Mourinho come through the door, not get the players that they want. The reality of it is they ask for, Conte, I said this to you, Wes, asked for Bastoni. He got, Longley. You've got Mourinho asking for Bruno Fernandes and getting Gedson Fernandes. You've got Pochettino wanted João Moutinho. Do you remember how close that was? I think it was Poch wanted Moutinho. Didn't get him on deadline day. It's another one that fell through. All these players that managers want, we're always linked to them. It's close. But then we go and sign a cheap alternative. That's a fact. That is a fact. You look at what we did for the Gareth Bale money. Yeah, he did spend it, but he spent on a load of shit. Most successful player out of that whole group was Eric Lamela. And that's saying something. So the way I kind of look at it is, this is my football club, the team that I choose to support, that I die hard watch as much as I possibly can, come on the internet and talk and rant about. I couldn't give a fuck whether he's putting pound notes in his pocket or buying Joe Lewis paintings for his boat. What I want him to do is go, okay, my manager, say Ange went to him and said, these are the players I want. These are the players that are going to turn us into a trophy-winning team. I want the owner to say, okay, fine, let's go and do that. Not to turn around and say, okay, that's who you want, but this is who I kind of like the look of, who is a cheaper option. And that's what it is. It's bargain basement. He's willing to spend all the money in the world on the new stadium and the training ground and the hotels and the golf courses and the go-kart track and all these business models and everything else that is to do with a business, because all that does, it inflates the value of the club. And when you inflate the value of a football club, who does that benefit? Does it benefit us? It should do, because our club is now worth 3.5 billion, but it doesn't. It benefits him because now he's looking for investors and to sell. So he'll turn his minuscule investment rate. Well, how much they pay Alan Sugar? 20 million? Something like that? You're going to be turning a 20 million investment into
it wasn't a lot.
A £3 billion investment. You see my point? So in my opinion, this is the way I look at it. We are run like a business. So people talk about not wanting oil money. If some rich sheikh wants to come and buy my football club and wants to buy the players, the best players in the world, to play at the best stadium in the world, for the best fans in the world, and bring trophies to, I think, the most deserving fans, fantastic. I'm all for it. Give me that sheikh money. Wes, come to you, mate.
Yeah, I get your points, Dave, and I'm agreeing with quite a few of them because, they're sort of hard-earned facts. I can't really argue with it. However, one thing I will say is, and I think as Spurs fans we have to be mindful of this, is almost be careful what you wish for. Because if you look at, say, Everton, right? I take Everton as, again, another founder member of the Premier League. I would argue Everton are a similar sized football club to Tottenham. In terms of history, in terms of fan base, I would argue Everton are a similar sized football club to Tottenham. The difference is that with Levy, that there's going to be a football club there for your grandkids, your great grandkids, all of that kind of shit, right? I look at Everton and the shit that Mashiri's put them under, and you go in, mate, they're going to have the best stadium in the Championship, right? They're going to have that 60,000 seater stadium, brand spanking new, and there's a high chance that's going to be in the Championship. Mashiri has absolutely torn Everton to shreds because he hasn't got a clue what he's doing. So obviously he took over from Bill Kenwright, and then when Bill Kenwright was in charge, it was perceived, I'm not an Everton fan, I'm not an Everton person, not a Scouse or anything. On the outside looking in, you'd go, Everton, well-run club, spend within their means, don't go overboard, etc., etc. And yeah, Mashiri's come in and just ripped it apart. And now Everton are left, and Sean Dyche is left with a load of shit from previous regimes where they flip-flopped from one style to the other, then back and forth and back and forth. So I do think there is a part of me that goes, just be careful what you wish for, because again, if you look at a club like Portsmouth, were in the Premier League, doing well in the Premier League, proper Barclays almost, Barclays and trend on Twitter, all of that kind of stuff, right? Somebody takes them over, hasn't got the funds. Somebody else has to take them out, and then all of a sudden, Portsmouth end up in League Two.
Whilst I do agree, I do agree with you in some points, Wes. That and that's one thing I do give Daniel Levy credit for is the value of the club has increased so much.
Yeah,
we're not going to get an owner like the owners that took over Portsmouth or the owners that took over, Everton, for example, because they're not rich enough. They don't have $3.5 billion.
But we might. So it could be somebody comes in and goes, yeah, I'm going to look at the Glazers at United. They take money out the club. They've taken out over $1 billion, and they've actually bought United with a bank loan. So they've literally gone into the bank and said, yeah, I want to buy this football club, and the bank went, yeah, sounds great. There you go. There's the money.
Look at what they spend, though. Look at what they spend on transfers. Look at what and fair enough. They haven't been they've won FA Cups and everything else. I'd kill for an FA Cup right now.
Yeah, listen,
I look at teams like Leicester. Like Leicester who were bought by new owners, and they won a Premier League and an FA Cup back to back, and I think they won a Community Shield. They're a more successful club than Tottenham. People always ask me whose career would you rather have, Jamie Vardy's or Harry Kane's. Jamie Vardy's got trophies to his name.
Look, listen, Wigan and MK Dons have won more than Spurs, right, since 2008. Throwing it out there as well, right? But there is also there is that side of me that goes, there's probably more to it than what meets the eye. Like I say, we could get somebody in, like MK Dons are my local team, all right, whether you like the story or not, they've got new owners. And everybody's now going, okay, what are these new owners going to do? They've had somebody who's ran the club in a certain way to try and keep things sustainable. He's gone through and done other things to help with the business side of things. But now we've got new owners. They've got this sort of oil with your oil money, pretty much. And now it's a case of, okay, what happens next? Are these owners going to come in and go, we like the look of this, we like the look of that, we want this, yeah, let's strip it back, and all of a sudden a football club is on its arse and on its
I want to pull up a comment because it kind of touches on what you said from Brian. Big up Brian in the chat. Why does everyone always compare the teams that have been ruined financially as opposed to top clubs with great chairmen that do stuff right? It's always Everton and Leeds. Why not Liverpool, who have, and there is a part two to this, 1 second, who have won absolutely everything. Give Klopp the money he wants, especially with the Coutinho money, to buy 2 world-class players instead of 7 with the Bale money. How did that turn out?
Right. My argument to that is FSG and I've got a good friend of mine who is a Liverpool fan, and he is like what you are pretty much, Dave, for Levy out. He's literally that with FSG. Like Liverpool, an proper institution of a football club, one of the biggest clubs in the world. Yeah, they are really, really tight, right, with the way that they run their ship. So, yes, they sold Coutinho for 142 million. They bought Van Dijk for 75, Alisson for 50 odd, right? So you would argue there it's been balanced. So it's not like they've gone, yes, okay, we're going to get these extra players to take Liverpool. Imagine if Liverpool hadn't sold Coutinho, and that Klopp went, I still need a centre-half, I still need a goalkeeper. Are they going to get Van Dijk and Alisson, or are they going to have to get that next level down? You look at the fact now, okay, that you've got Trent, Salah and Van Dijk all in the last year of their contract. Imagine if them three walk out on a free. It's going to be riots in Liverpool. Again, you look at their transfer window in Klopp's last year, very, very rarely did they actually outlay anything. It was more like release clause. There wasn't any negotiations realistically in hardly any of the deals that Liverpool done last year, and it was only by panic that they got Endo, and I believe they got Gravenberch. But you look at McAllister, 35 million release clause, Szoboszlai 58 million, 60 million euros, I think. Again, that was a release clause. So Liverpool get away with it because they've got the tangible success on the table. Whereas we don't get away, or Levy doesn't get away with it because there's not many pots on the table. I wouldn't say Liverpool were fortunate in the sense they had Klopp, who revolutionised things.
But we had Pochettino, who revolutionised, and the difference being, and I think this is what Brian's point, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but he was given the Coutinho money to spend how he wanted to spend it. He wanted Alisson, he wanted Van Dijk. when it comes to our ownership, it feels like then the managers aren't given the money to spend how they want to spend it. You know, you look at Conte and Mourinho, born winners. You know, and I made this point, and Cal, I'm going to come to you in a sec about Liverpool as well, see if we can make some comparisons. But Conte and Mourinho are born winners. They win trophies at every single club, but they didn't at Tottenham. When I said we've had 18 managers, including interims, in 23 years, more than half of those managers have bad things to say about the ownership and the people interfering and people, you know, the ownership and Daniel Levy not allowing them to manage how they want to or getting the backing that he wants to. We all remember Conte's rant. We all remember that it's bred in the football club. In my opinion, the way I kind of look at it is the Spursy tag as it is. It comes from the top, the tippy top of the tower, and that's Daniel Levy. Because in his mind, you know, success to him isn't the priority. The priority to him is building a business brand. But Cal, you know, I think Wes made some good points about FSG and Liverpool actually, and you know, and about the Glazers and everything else. But in terms of Brian's comment about picking up on clubs that have been successful with new ownerships, it's not all bad. It's not all negative. We hear a lot more about the negative because negative sells papers. You know, that's kind of the way it is. And football clubs going into administration is a huge thing, you know, going out of business. But, you know, when you do look at successful clubs, you look at Leicester, you know, I know some fans want FSG out and everything else, but they've bred a very successful team under FSG. They brought in a very, very strong squad. Man United, the Glazers, we all know how United fans feel about the Glazers. Whilst I agree they're not very good owners, they spend money and they put their money where their mouth is and back players. You know, how much they spend on Anthony? 75 million? You know, that's more than our record signing, and he's wank. You know, so they back their managers. You see what I mean? That's the big difference for me. So what do you think? Do you think it's more of a case of there's a fear factor between people that are Levy in thinking we could end up with dog shit and we could be even worse off than we are? Or is it more of a case of that this is what we know and let's kind of stay with it?
There are some comparisons I see between Liverpool and Spurs in terms of more towards the transfer line between the time that they went through and our Pochettino time, because us and Liverpool both had two of the best English or British transfer negotiators going in Michael Edwards and Paul Mitchell. They were times where I thought they were absolutely brilliant. And you have to give Liverpool credit for that. They've brought Edwards back. They lost their direction, like Wes said, for the last maybe 2 years or so before they've had to restructure the club. They started going down towards i.e. FSG have the final say. And yet I make you right saying that Daniel Levy has probably stuck his oar in too much when it comes to certain negotiations, controlling football matters, when realistically he should have been the person signing off the cheque. It's this devoid idea saying who is actually in charge at these clubs. FSG lost the direction. Spurs have had the right direction. I wouldn't always say it's been the correct one. And I do think that what Brian said does have a lot of merit as well. Because, like Dave, I think Brian's brilliant. I really enjoy listening to whenever he talks a lot of sense, and he does really fucking cheer me up, to be honest, when I'm feeling down as well. Even if I don't agree with everything, I just love the way he puts it. But
can I just quickly on Brian? One thing I will say about Brian is Brian lives across the other side of the world. Whenever there's a demonstration, he's here in London outside the stadium. If more fans were like Brian, more change would happen. That's all I'll say. But carry on, Cal.
No, I completely agree with you, mate. And the thing with it is that it's about toeing the line, knowing where we are as a club, where other clubs are, where we put ourselves in leveling. And I take like the comment you said about Man United with Anthony. I mean, if you ever read the article from The Athletic, showed how much of a shit show United were. He was quoted by the Man United scouting team to be valued at £30 million. That was all. Wasn't worth any more. Should never have been touched. Ajax literally pulled down the Glazers' pants and gone, right, we're going to lube you up, we're going to rim you up, and we're going to get ready because we've got the bank book waiting for you, and you are going to literally pay us what we fucking want. He was valued at 30 million and should have had red flags all over him. Any crude business person would go, we don't care if the manager wants this player. This is bad business, bad for everyone across the board, like what we've seen with it. And that's at least where Levy can assess risk compared with balance on the transfer side. Wouldn't always say he's right, but he could have sensed that deal a mile off. And if you think when we have spent big on players, it's been the wrong directions. Ndombele, Lo Celso, Tarat, people like that in the past who have had so much potential, and we've been burnt by it. Pardon?
Kudu.
I wouldn't even say that wasn't even a big buy. That was a Steve Hitchin bargain bucket deal from fucking League One on that. But I mean, the thing is, from a business sense, you assess the risk, you assess risk, achievement, and middle grounds. If you're in the middle ground, then you've got flexibility to operate. And a lot of the time, I think Spurs do operate within their means on that. When they do try to go big and take the risk, I don't think it goes down right. A lot of big clubs will be able to just throw the money at it and write the loss off. So, like what Arsenal did with Pepe, 90 million all in for him. And that was just on the transfer fee. Wages come to about 120 or 130 million. They wrote that off and just went, right, you're a prick. Fuck off back to France, sort of thing. That's what they did. With Spurs, we are too sentimental. I think that's what makes a lot of people like yourself think, what the fuck is the club doing? Because we don't take that step. And that's where I do agree with the Levy out or Enoch out. If you're going to make a commercial decision, you bite the bullet and try and do something. And I know that probably Brian would say this. People like Paul O'Keefe will say this. A lot of journalists will say it as well, that the Spurs don't take the leaps that the big clubs do. That's why we get put in the bracket of going, we're kind of thereabouts, but we're not actually going to go the steps we need to. The problem is that Spurs get ourselves into the problems ourselves. It's self-created crap where we listen to an intermediary like Mendes, Zahavi, people that we had in terms of these super agents just trying to sell us shit. The failings of transfer directors, i.e. Steve Hitchin, who didn't even like the transfer director. Well, why the hell are you a transfer director then? Why are you a director of football? So this is why I can see some...
Sorry, Cal, on the directors of football. Now, we've had a whole host. We had Damien Comolli, we've had...
Baldini.
We've had lots of directors of football. The one who got arrested in Italy, whatever his name was, the most recent one.
Don Fabio.
All of these directors of football,
Paratici,
all of these directors of football have come out after they've left Tottenham and have all said the same thing. That same thing being, I don't know if you can read my mind here, we're not allowed to do our job because we identify the players that we need. We identify the course of action that's needed to strengthen the squad. We work with the manager to identify the talent that he needs to rebuild his squad. And we are told the squad's inflated, we must sell first. The squad inflated, we must sell first is a Daniel Levy problem because he won't own his mistakes. When he does make a mistake in the transfer window, he is too keen to chuck them out on loan and to hope that he gets some sort of money for them. The latest one being Brian Hill, prime example.
Manor
Solomon, Reguilon, it's still happening, and this is the problem. Ben Davis has been at the club for donkey's years. You know what I mean? Like he's not getting any minutes, and I'm disappointed. But you are right. We're not ruthless. But all of these sporting directors that have come out and said we have identified the players we need, and we are not allowed to quite pull the trigger. We are told to look for alternatives. That falls on one man because Daniel Levy may be an absolute genius in building a brand, building a multi-event stadium, a huge training ground, a nice go-kart track. If he's good at that, just fucking do that. and this is my point. So that I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you again, Cal, just really quickly on the sporting directors. If all of them are saying the same thing, when the fans kind of realise, hang on a minute, if all of these managers that have left have said they're hindered by the ownership, and all these sporting directors have said they're hindered by an ownership, when the fans turn around and say, oh, hang on a minute, maybe it is the owners that are the problem.
What we need to consider with this, I mean, how many of these sporting directors have pretty much moved on and done anything successful after being at Spurs? Comoli, never heard of him again. Baldini, fucked off back to Italy and has been done on corruption charges constantly on it. Paul Mitchell is probably the most successful, but he has left so many clubs for arguing with them. He went to Leipzig, fell out with the Red Bull group. I mean, he had money there and he fell out with them, then has gone to Monaco, then moved to Newcastle, and now he's arguing with them because they are under PSR constraints and actually being hamstrung by financial misconduct over the way that they've acted as a club. Paratici, yes, should have done our due diligence with him, but very positive in what he had done. It just turned out that what he had done at Juventus was about as dodgy as the Spanish banks bankrolling Barcelona and Real Madrid without paying back their deficit each year. No wonder the Spanish economy's fucked. But that's another story, another day. I will do another podcast with you on that, Dave, on world politics and world financial conduct. The whole point is, though, that yes, I agree, there is an underlying thing where they all say that Levy is the problem. Well, I would argue that you're allowed to argue with your boss because ultimately I have managers who work for me. They argue with me because of the decisions that I make. I listen to them and I have to make the best commercial decision for it. And from a business sense, if a technical director comes to you with a player or a suggested player and goes, we have a budget of 40 million. I need you to release another 100 on top of that to go and get 100, to give me 140 million to go and buy, just say Mbappe. What's a business owner going to do from that? They're going to have to assess every single return. Are they going to get the money back in sponsorship? Are they going to get it back in shirt sales? Are they going to get it back in commercial revenue? Are they going to actually be a proven success as well? After the directors of football have actually been stamped out, and yeah, they've gone, it was the manager's problem, but they've gone on and had the same problems with other clubs as well, who are smaller than Spurs or actually probably on the same level pegging at Spurs. It might just be that after the directors of football that we've chosen are the wrong people for the job and they're just genuine pricks themselves as well. It's just a line of thought, but maybe they are just very difficult in the way that they do it. And
well, I'm getting a lot of feedback from your mic, but I want to come to you, mate, with a question, and then to Cal, I'm going to ask you the same question. So obviously we've been talking about this for 43 minutes. We've gone on about it, but let's one question. How do you define success at a football club?
What a question. For me, success is building on what you have done previously. So, for example, Spurs finishing, fifth last year in the Premier League, right? You would argue success in the Premier League for Tottenham this year would be to finish fourth, right? Because that's a progression on last year. Right, it might even be that we end up finishing fifth, but we get more points. Would you argue that that's success as well, because we've effectively had a better season than what we've had last year? Cup runs. Okay, we got knocked out earlier. The Carabao Cup, we've already surpassed that this year. FA Cup wise, that's going to be an interesting one because again we went out fairly early, but again just depends on the cup draw. But yeah, for me, in terms of if I'm going to give like a blanket answer, it has to be to build and progress on what you've done previously.
So just based on that, before I ask Cal the same question, 2019 Champions League final.
Yes.
I think where did we come in the league that year? We had fourth.
Yeah, and didn't win a away game that calendar year
either. So let's say after the 2019 Champions League final, to build on that success, what does an ownership need to do to be able to give the manager the tools to build on that success?
Listen to the manager. get its recruitment right, both in and out, which is ridiculously difficult. And I think that is why Sergio Reguilon is still at Tottenham Hotspur, because no one wants him. You know, it's potentially a reason why Jed Spence is still at Tottenham, because we can't shift him because he's on bloody good money. Football recruitment is, like, honestly, it's one of the best things that I've ever got involved in. I was fortunate enough to work at a football club in its recruitment department. The amount of planning that goes into it is mind-blowing, by the way. It's not a case of you turn up on the first day of pre-season and go, right, lads, who do we fancy signing today? Unless you watch the Sunderland documentary in Series 1, where they've got Ibrahimovic and Ainsley Maitland-Niles. Yeah, they got Zlatan and Ainsley Maitland-Niles on the same list. So that's not how to do it. But there's a lot of planning that goes into play. So you would argue now that January's planning in terms of what the squad's going to look like has already been done. Next season is probably either not fit. It's either finished or on the way to being finished by now. And yeah, recruitment departments work a couple of years in advance, but there's a lot of factors and circumstances that come into play. We might have a player in mind that we want to replace Heung-min Son, but all of a sudden that player then gets injured, or they sign a new contract that the club didn't really know about, or there might be something there that surprises the football club. He might get a move elsewhere. You know, we've had that with Willian. Like, he was pretty much done, and all of a sudden Chelsea come in last minute, and you know he's ended up over there. There might even be a situation where we've got a player that's pretty much signed, and all of a sudden the wife or his partner or whoever goes, no, I don't want to go. I'm happy where I am at the moment. All of a sudden, deal gets plugged. Done. That's it. Because the wife doesn't want to move. You'll be surprised how much the other half and the boss, if you like, the gaffer at home, has a lot of say just in football transfers. But I think just coming back to points on like the directors of football that we've had, the managers that we've had, especially the big name ones, my argument against that is they all knew what they were signing up for before they took the job. Because you can't tell me that these guys don't know what Daniel Levy's like as a person beforehand. So then they go, actually, I'm going to be the one to change him. But that's not going to work. Because Levy is, okay, he's a stubborn man, right? So he's going to work in a certain way. Like, you're telling me Mourinho and Conte did not know what Daniel Levy was like. I know probably Conte come in because of his mate Paratici, and like Paratici's begged him, come, Antonio, come do me a favour. We're in the shit.
My honest opinion on that, I think Mourinho and Conte were promised the world in that sense. What I kind of feel, just moving back to the question in terms of what do you define success about? I think Brian makes a really good point where he says there's a big difference between success and progression. I'll be honest with you, as a Tottenham fan, under Mauricio Pochettino, we were in a golden period because the teams around us weren't very good. They were struggling. Leicester won the league. It shows that the rest of the league's struggling. They're all in transition periods. That's the time an ownership turned around and says, now's our opportunity. We have an amazing young squad. We've got a brilliant manager. You know, now's the time to back him, give him the players he wants, and kind of go from there and take that next step and take that next leap. You know, for me, success is what you win on a football pitch. It's not what's in your bank at the end of the year. It's not how much profit you've made in that year, or whether you've made a loss. It's about how many cups are in the cupboard. And ours is looking very dusty. You know, it's looking incredibly dusty. So for me, that's what I define success as. And under this ownership, I don't see us having that level of success, because while you're trying to balance checkbooks and bank balances and, you know, trying to invest in the commercial market, you know, this PSR thing as well. You know, I saw a stat that Tottenham could spend £500 million for 4 transfer windows in a row and not breach PSR. I'm not saying I want him to go and spend £500 million, but I want him to say, ooh, everyone else is stuck with these constraints. They can't go and spend big. Now's our time again to take that next step and to push on. The problem is I think Mourinho wanted Skirtle, didn't get him.
Skriniar, wasn't it? He wanted Skriniar and ended up with Joe Roden.
Exactly, and this is a common theme.
Why the fuck would you want Skirtle the Turtle? Who wants Skirtle the Turtle? Come on.
The names start with the same, but just you see what I mean. That
It's all right. When you put Skirtle and Turtle together, it's Skirtle.
There's been lots of times where managers have wanted a player of sorts, and instead of getting the player they want, they get a budget alternative. We got the wish version of Bruno Fernandes with Gedson Fernandes. So this is kind of what happens to us as a football club. And I'll be honest with you, I am fed up of it. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of us being run as a business. And if some Saudi king wants to come and put all this money, or Amanda Staveley wants to come along with some, shake money or whatever else and invest it into a club that can actually spend a lot of money, then I'm all for it. So, Cal, I'm going to ask you the same question before we do move on, because we are running out of time. But what, and how do you define success as? As a football club, I mean, as a football.
Can I just go back? Yeah. Can I just go back to the Bruno Fernandes transfer? There was an article that I read about 6 months ago, quickly. Bruno Fernandes was very much set on coming to Spurs. The sporting president said, "You are not going. I will not let you go because we need you this transfer window." So no matter what money Spurs or United would have put down, he weren't coming. He said they needed him for another 6 months to a year to keep going. And that was a promise that was made, that if the deal was to go through, that then a club could come in and pay a certain fee for Bruno Fernandes. United did that. The problem is Spurs had already spunked their money up the wall on Ndombele and Lo Celso already in the summer for that. So whatever money that was there wouldn't have been there anymore. So we was already behind the cusp on that. So I wouldn't ultimately put that.
I'm going to give you one more name, Paulo Dybala.
That was an image rights issue, because you cannot own player image rights in the United Kingdom. So we would have had to buy a image rights deal, which is illegal under the Financial Conduct Authority, not by football standards, but by government standards, to be able to go out and get him as well. So, I mean, it's one of them where the Dybala deal was dog shit from the start. And all that. With Italy, they can get away with that stuff. Yeah, go for it.
Lautaro Martinez.
Lautaro Martinez.
We had a deal for Ruben Diaz as well, by the way.
Ruben Diaz. This is it. These are all the names that come across on, and that's kind of the way it is. It generally happens. Quick comment again from Bry. He says, when Pochettino came, he wanted Schneiderlin and Wanyama as his first signings. He got Benjamin Stamboli and went and got Wanyama next season because he had to go the cheap route first. Spot on. Johnny says, it's progress but also success. You play better players, you climb the Premier League. The reality of it is, Johnny, is that may be the case for other clubs, but it's not the case for Tottenham, because you play better for Tottenham. Daniel Levy says, what do we need to buy anyone for? We're doing all right. We're second. We're in the Champions League. I'm getting that Champions League money every year. I don't need to spend all this extra money. We can go 3 seasons without signing a player because our squad's decent. And then he goes and sells our right back for 50 million. That's what it's like being a Tottenham fan. So, Cal, back to my original question, mate. As a football fan, as a Tottenham Hotspur fan, what do you define success as? And if you're in the comments, tell me, what do you define success as a football fan?
I think success has to be defined, like most people in the chat have said, progress to lead to trophies, to get to winning trophies. And yeah, I make you guys both right that we have progressed on the business side, but on the footballing side, we've always, when we've been the bridesmaid, we've never stepped up to be the bride. So I think now we need to be up at the altar and getting that ring on our finger and going for it and getting the vows read out. Yeah, it don't matter that we've been shagging one of the groomsmen or the best man in the background and all that. We want to be that club, like City, like Arsenal. We want to be there pushing too for it. But I think now that we're the stage is that we are once again in a rebuild, and that hopefully is the progression part. But you hope at the end of year 2, year 3, year 4 that you are pushing, if not to go and get the trophies. The problem is there's 20 clubs going for literally 12 clubs going for 4 trophies and all that. So we're always going to end up one fan base or 20 fan bases are always going to be pissed off they didn't get one trophy. And we're only talking about Spurs here, aren't we? Every other club could do a podcast like this, and they can. Only 4 of them would be happy. That'd be Liverpool for recent trophies, Arsenal for at least something recent, I think, but I can't remember which the last one was. Man United getting the FA Cup. Chelsea, they're just a shit show, so I won't even bring them into it. Then City as well, winning stuff. So realistically, we are all saying this, that, this, that, this, that. What we have to do is say, yes, we want progress. We want to be going for these trophies. And yeah, we have stagnated the last couple of years, but we are in a better position than we were under previous ownerships. That's all I can say. So I wouldn't say we're a successful club. I wouldn't say we're a bad club either. We're there or thereabouts, and progress hopefully leads to trophies.
Brian, again, spot on.
That's what I want.
It's always a line, at least we tried, and I do hear that a lot. Look, I do want to get onto our score predictor for next week. In a minute, I will say that Luke and Winnie have not done their scores. So it's Tottenham versus West Ham.
Hey!
If you're in the comments, I want an outlandish score from both of you, for both of them, for Winnie and for Luke. But we will come to that. But one final word from me on this. This is always going to spark debate between the fans. It's always going to split the fans down the middle as to whether he is the right man to take Tottenham forward. I think the way I kind of look at it is I look at it as the evidence on the table. What has he done from a football perspective, not a business perspective, to bring this club into the next, take us to the next level? Who has he brought in? What players has he signed, and who has he sold in that time that could take us to that next level? The way I've always viewed it is he doesn't do enough as a football chairman. He does a great job as a business chairman. But Daniel Levy is not a football man. He's a businessman who wants to retire with £1 billion in his pocket once he sells the football club. This is why I believe that under this ownership, they will never go beyond their means. They will never spend the money that is needed to take us to a next level. And it's the main reason that clubs like Aston Villa are now overtaking us and becoming better than us, are becoming stronger. Because while everyone else that's around us regroups and rebuilds, as a football club, Tottenham stagnate and we stop. Because that success to Daniel Levy is getting to Champions League and getting European football, because what that does is it brings in more money, more commercial eyes. Those commercial eyes bring commercial eyes to a football stadium, which in turn brings other sporting events and concerts, etc., to the stadium. So for me, I'll always be Levy out. I think his time's done. But and I do agree that we haven't, we've not won a trophy since 2008. As far as I'm concerned, as a top 6 team in the Premier League, that's unacceptable. We had a golden period, a golden generation with Pochettino, with Dele Alli, Dembele, Harry Kane, Heung-min Son, Carl Walker, Danny Rose, Toby, Jan. We had an unbelievable team that just needed them finishing touches to really take us to that next level. That next level would last for years on because it brings in the money. So I am Levy out. That's not going to change it. It is going to divide the fan base. And I hope that you've enjoyed this debate. I really, really do, because it's been interesting. But finally, Wes, still on the fence, mate?
Still there.
Are you leaning one way or another?
No, I'm not. I was, like I said earlier, a good few years ago, and now I'm just there like, do you know what? Like, listen, I don't trust Daniel Levy as far as I could throw him, right? But at the same time, I look at like other owners of football clubs, and I go, who would I want to kind of be in charge of my football club?
Sheikh Mansour.
Well, he's not even, Kaldiman Mubarak, but then he's like, they don't really care. Like, the one thing, and don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Yeah, I wouldn't want Mashiri, that's for sure. Not a chance. Would I want Tony Fernandez, who was at QPR? Absolutely not. Look at what he gave Mark Hughes, and they've only just got out of, paying for that. Look at the owners of clubs that are in League One. Like, look at Reading's owner. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying that we are a similar sized club, but at the same time, there are far worse owners and chairmen of football clubs than Mr. Levy. Like I say, don't trust him as far as I could throw him. But at the same time, I don't know who else realistically I would kind of want in charge of my football club at the same time. Yes, he's done a lot of shit over the years, and a lot of decisions I don't agree with, especially when it comes to player recruitment, etc., etc. But I think that's for another day. But yeah, there has been some good with Levy in charge. Whether he's solely responsible for that or not, I think is remains to be seen. But we have had some, as Callum mentioned earlier, we've had probably some of our best times as Tottenham fans with him at the helm. Like I say, I'm not saying he's responsible for it, but he's the man at the top of the tree whilst those good times have happened.
Cool. And Cal, still Levy in.
I'm arching more towards sitting on the fence. I've probably got the same split.
I pulled him across, Brian. We pulled him over.
Well, I am sharing the same splinters in my arse that Wes has got, though. So I will say on that. But no, I back the club, but I do think the ownership leaves a lot to be desired in there. But I do also emphasise there is still enough mitigating factors to say that it cannot just be Levy out. It has to be a full regime change if it was to do it, and it has to be a approved regime who are going to do something the right way and not a country that are going to come in and buy us for a private equity fund or a oil deal like what the United States government will do or something like that. And I'm probably on a watch list now, the Pentagon. So now we are going to be on someone's radar somewhere. No, but I am. I'm definitely more moderate. I'm definitely more moderate in my views. I feel that there's always an argument for both sides. I just think that we need to push on as a club now and stop chopping and changing. You're either going to do something and stick by it, or don't fucking bother and all that. That's all I can say, mate.
To finish the debate, I've always been Levy out. Wes has always been on the fence. Callum at the start of the show was Levy in. He's now sitting on the fence. So as far as I'm concerned, my job here is done. Moving on to our score predictor before Luke tells me off for going over the hour. We've got West Ham at home in our next fixture. Luke and Winnie have both forgotten to put their scores in. We normally spin a wheel, but I don't have a wheel. I don't have any of that stuff ready. So I'm going to start with Wes. If you can give me your score for the West Ham game, Tottenham at home. And if you're in the chat, if you can give us a completely outlandish score for Luke and Winnie, I'd really appreciate it. But Wes.
So, Dave, this game for me is like what Arsenal is for you, in the sense that you hate Derby. This is like one game that I can't stand, because West Ham, to me, are like the little brother that gets mouthy every now and then, but then you kind of need to just slap him in his place type of thing. And that's kind of the vibe I get with West Ham. Like, they think they are massive, but they're massive for like 5 minutes, and then they get put back in their place very quickly. And yes, they can go, oh, we won more trophies than you lately.
They won the League 2 European Cup.
I mean, we only got out of that because we had loads of COVID cases, put it that way. And it's Derby Day in my household as well. I'm going to go 2-1 Spurs, though, in terms of my score prediction. 2-1
Spurs. Cal, where are you going for this?
I'm the same as Wes. I think this is such a big game, more the fact that my other half's dad is a West Ham fan. He can be very delusional when it comes to them, and I love to take the piss out of him when saying that Millwall are a better team in that area of London. It does go down well over family dinner, but no, I think this is a big game for us, and if we can actually result in a West Ham manager getting sacked from it as well, I will be over fucking joyed. I'm not going to lie. So I'm thinking 3-1 Spurs, and I'm going to do Luke's score as well for them, and I'm going to say for him, he is going for a 3-2 loss to West Ham.
So Wes's mum has come out for 3-2 Spurs. So you've gone. So Luke, so just to be clear, Wes 2-1 Tottenham, yes. Callum 3-1 Tottenham. Luke's going 3-2 West Ham, and
Winnie's got to have like 6-4.
Johnny's given us Winnie's score here, mate. 4-4.
Yeah,
4-4. And me, I'm the same as Cal. I do think we'll win. fucking hate West Ham. So, Danny Dyer can stick the hammers up his arse for all I care. But I'll go 3-1 Tottenham as well. I think we'll beat them. I think we'll be too much for them, and then the manager will get the sack. But listen, we've had loads of people joining and tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It's been a really good debate to really get involved in. I'm really glad Brian and everyone else has jumped in the chat and given us their opinions. It is really interesting. It is always going to divide opinion. But Wes, how can people find you, mate?
Strap yourselves in, ladies and gents. It couldn't go on for another hour here. But yeah, Twitter's at Wezo10, unofficial East End Belly fan account, as everybody knows by now. Usually tweeting about the best Belgians to ever grace the Premier League, and a player who was massively underrated by Antonio Rudiger, which he said on a recent podcast as well. Instagram's at Wezo32, usually at a Spurs home game. I'm going to be at the Spurs West Ham game as well, if anybody wants to come and say hello in the South Stand. And then I run my own football coaching business in Milton Keynes, so it's Kickoff Football Academy or Kofa MK across your socials for that. But make sure you like, subscribe, and give us your thoughts on absolutely anything that we go through on this podcast, and even the FPL show as well, because it does help try and grow the channel, which is what we all want.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in before Cal, and obviously while we still got people watching, FPL Extra Time, Fat Pod lads, me and a few of my mates do a show on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. All things FPL. We talk a bit of Premier League as well. It's a good laugh. We take the piss out of each other for an hour. So jump on Wednesdays 9 p.m. You can find me at Park Lane Pod Dave if you want to have a debate about Levy in, Levy out, or if you want to at Park Lane Pod. Don't forget to like all of our socials as well. We're on TikTok at Park Lane Pod, on YouTube, on Facebook as well. We're everywhere. So, keep tuning in, keep liking and subscribing, and tune in Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. for my FPL show, pretty much. Cal, where can we find you, mate?
Cheers for tonight, boys. You can find me at CamStubbs97 on Twitter. I have pretty much been put on loan in the coming season, haven't I, as well? I am being loaned out to H's podcast for I am taking the 7:30 till 9 slot before Dave's Fat Pod lads as well for my Premier League show. So I've got that for the season. Got a couple more pods coming up as well in the next couple of weeks as well. So I'm going to be on loan here, there, and everywhere, all over the place. So you can find me on most other channels. Oh, don't! I'm the new Brian Hill. I'm going to be out in Spain. I'm going to be in France. You never know. I might even end up in somewhere in the Middle East or in Eastern Europe. We will see. We will see.
Wait, you've been in Prague, Cal. So you're halfway there.
Yeah. We've got where is Scarf?
Exactly.
Harry does his own thing now. Johnny's on his own channel. He pops up every now and again. But firstly, thank you all for tuning in. Where's his mum again? Thank you very much for coming online. Jay, as always, mate, thank you. I'll see you on Wednesday at 9 p.m. Johnny, again, thank you for coming in. Brian, everybody in the chat, Toxic Headshot, all the people on Facebook, everywhere. We really enjoyed having you with us. But what I will say is in a week where there's nothing really happening in the football world, it's a bit rubbish with England because no one gives a monkeys. We hope we've entertained you all with this debate. The debate will rage on. Nobody really knows. It splits the fan base. Levy in, Levy out. One thing we can all agree on is come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.